Welcome to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss any more shocking and captivating stories. Enjoy watching. Calder Huxley had never liked social media. He used it the way a man used a flashlight during a blackout, only when necessary, briefly, and with a faint irritation that it existed at all. That night, he opened his phone for no reason other than habit, scrolling with his thumb while the television murmured to an empty living room. Emily was upstairs. At home, she had said earlier. Tired, she had added. Just going to shower and sleep. Calder remembered the exact way she said it. Soft, casual, rehearsed. He remembered because something in her tone had been off, like a note slightly out of key. He had ignored it then. He was good at ignoring things. 13 years of marriage had taught him that. The tag notification appeared without warning. You were tagged in a photo. He frowned. No one tagged Calder Huxley in anything. His circle was small. His life was quiet. The name beneath the notification meant nothing to him, Marcus Delaney, and for a moment he assumed it was a mistake. Then he opened it. The photo loaded slowly, as if the internet itself hesitated to deliver it. When it finally sharpened, Calder felt something cold move through his chest. It was a party. Not a wild one. No red cups or flashing lights, but expensive. Clean. A rented house with glass walls and a city skyline behind it. People dressed too well for coincidence, holding drinks that looked curated instead of poured. And there, slightly off-center, was Emily. She was wearing the black dress Calder had bought her last winter. The one she said felt too much for most occasions. Her hair was done differently, looser, more intentional. Her hand rested on a man's arm, not hovering, not polite, resting. The man beside her was tall, confident in the way men who never worry about rent are confident. His hand sat at the small of her back like it belonged there. His smile was angled toward her ear. Emily wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at him. Calder stared at the screen, waiting for the feeling to organize itself into something recognizable. Anger, maybe, or shock. Instead, what he felt was disorientation. The room around him seemed suddenly unfamiliar, like he had walked into his own house and found the furniture rearranged. At the bottom of the photo, the caption read, "Private nights with the right people." Calder tapped Emily's face. Her tag opened her profile. Tagged. 9 minutes ago. 9 minutes. His eyes flicked instinctively toward the staircase. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No shower running. No footsteps. No music bleeding through the walls the way Emily usually let it. He locked his phone and sat there, breathing slowly, the way he did when something went wrong at work, and panic would only make it worse. There had been signs. He saw them now, lining up obediently in his memory, like evidence that had waited for permission to exist. Emily's phone, always face down. Her sudden obsession with privacy. The way she'd started taking calls in the garage. The way she'd laughed less with him, and more at messages he couldn't see. Calder had told himself it was stress, or age, or distance that naturally grew between two people who had been together too long. He stood up and walked to the bottom of the stairs. "Emily," he called. No answer. He climbed halfway before stopping. The bedroom door was open. The bed was perfectly made. Her pajamas lay folded where she'd left them that morning. She wasn't home. Calder felt foolish for how long he stood there, staring at a room that confirmed what the photo already had. He wasn't dramatic by nature. He didn't yell. He didn't throw things. His reactions tended to be internal, slow-burning, like a fuse that refused to rush. He went back downstairs and unlocked his phone again. He opened the comments. People he didn't know. Laughing emojis. Inside jokes. Someone wrote, "Didn't know you were married." Emily had liked the comment. That hurt more than the photo. Calder scrolled to Marcus Delaney's profile. Real estate developer. 42. Divorced. The kind of man who posted gym selfies without irony and motivational quotes about discipline and reward. Calder clicked through his photos. Emily appeared again. Different night, different outfit, same posture, same ease. This wasn't new. The realization settled in with devastating calm. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding or a single bad decision made after too much wine. This was a life. One she lived when Calder wasn't watching. His phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Still awake? I might be up a little late. Don't wait for me. Calder stared at the message until the words blurred. He typed, deleted, typed again. Everything okay? 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Yeah, just tired. Long day. He didn't respond. Instead, he sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where they had eaten dinner every night for over a decade, the same table where they had talked about vacations they never took and children they never had, the same table where Emily had once cried because she thought Calder didn't look at her the way he used to. He had looked. He always had. Midnight passed, then 1, then 2. At 2:37 a.m., a car pulled into the driveway. Calder didn't move. He listened to the sound of the engine shutting off. The front door opened quietly. Shoes were slipped off carefully. A jacket brushed against the wall. Emily stepped into the kitchen and froze. Calder was sitting there, hands folded, his phone face up on the table between them. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Emily forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're still up, she said. Calder looked at her the way a stranger might, carefully, like he was seeing her for the first time. Yeah, he said softly. I saw the photo. The smile fell. And in that silence, thick, trembling, full of everything unsaid, Calder understood one final thing with brutal clarity. This wasn't the moment the truth began. It was the moment he stopped lying to himself. Calder didn't sleep that night. Emily did, eventually. He heard her moving upstairs after their brief exchange, heard the shower turn on and off, heard the bed creak beneath her weight. At some point, the house returned to its familiar rhythm, as if nothing had happened, as if the walls hadn't absorbed a truth that would never leave them. Calder stayed at the kitchen table until the sky outside began to pale. He didn't replay the confrontation in his head because there hadn't really been one. No accusations, no raised voices. Just 4 words. I saw the photo. And the way Emily's face had changed when she realized there was no lie ready to step in front of her. That look stayed with him. It wasn't guilt. Not fully. It was calculation. By morning, Emily acted like a woman who believed she still had time. She made coffee. She kissed his cheek like she always had, light and absent-minded. She asked if he wanted eggs. Her voice was normal, warm even, and Calder found that unsettling. It meant she had already chosen a version of reality where this could be managed. He nodded when appropriate, answered when spoken to, let the performance unfold. When she left for work, he didn't follow her with his eyes like he used to. Instead, he waited until her car disappeared down the street, and then reached for his phone. Calder wasn't reckless. He knew confronting her too soon would lead to denial, tears, half-truths. He didn't want a confession born from pressure. He wanted facts, solid enough that even memory couldn't rewrite them. He started with the obvious. Emily's social media was curated, but carelessness had crept in. Tagged photos she hadn't noticed. Comments she hadn't deleted fast enough. A dinner here. A networking event there. Always Marcus Delaney somewhere nearby. Never labeled. Never acknowledged directly. Calder noticed patterns the way he always had. It was one of the reasons he'd been good at his job as a systems analyst. He saw structure where others saw noise. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Late work meetings. Gym nights that ran too long. He checked their shared calendar. Emily had stopped using it months ago. That stung more than he expected. He went into the garage and opened the small metal cabinet where they kept old paperwork. Insurance documents, receipts, Things no one ever looked at unless something was wrong. Emily's phone bill was there. Calder hadn't checked it in years. He scrolled slowly, methodically. One number appeared again and again. Late-night calls, short but frequent. He saved it to his contacts and typed in the name he already knew. Marcus. The confirmation didn't bring relief. It brought weight. Like every step forward, sank him deeper into something he couldn't climb out of unchanged. That evening, Emily came home cheerful. Too cheerful. She talked about her day, complained about traffic, laughed at a story about a coworker Calder had never met. She poured herself a glass of wine and sat across from him on the couch, legs tucked under her, like she was comfortable. Calder watched her hands. Her gestures were practiced, familiar, but there was a delay now, a fraction of a second before each reaction, like she was translating herself. "You've been quiet," she said. He shrugged. "Just tired." She nodded, accepting the answer easily. Too easily. Later, while Emily showered, Calder went upstairs and stood in their bedroom. He opened her nightstand drawer, something he had never done before without asking. Inside was nothing dramatic. Lip balm, a paperback novel, a charger, and a second phone. It was old but functional. No case, no lock. Calder picked it up and felt his chest tighten. The phone wasn't hidden well. It wasn't meant to be found, but it wasn't meant to be buried either. It existed in that space between secrecy and confidence, where people believe they're smarter than they are. He didn't turn it on. Not yet. He put it back exactly as he found it, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. His reflection in the mirror above the dresser looked unfamiliar. Older, smaller somehow. What hurt wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that Emily had built an entire parallel life without him noticing. Or worse, that she had noticed his trust and used it. That night, lying beside her, Calder felt the distance physically. Their shoulders didn't touch. Emily's breathing slowed into sleep, and Calder watched the ceiling, counting the faint cracks in the plaster. He thought about the early years, the apartment with mismatched furniture, the nights they stayed up talking about nothing, the way she used to grab his arm when she laughed. Had it all been real, or had it simply ended without him realizing? Over the next 2 weeks, Calder became careful. He stopped asking questions, stopped checking in. He let Emily believe the danger had passed. He even smiled more, laughed at her jokes, touched her hand in public. It cost him something each time, but he understood the value of patience. Meanwhile, he documented everything. Screenshots, dates, locations. He noted when Emily said she was at one place and appeared at another. He watched the bank statements quietly, noting dinners for two that didn't include him. Hotel bars, rideshare receipts late at night. One afternoon, he followed her. He told himself it was just to be sure, that maybe there was still some explanation that would collapse everything else into misunderstanding. Emily drove downtown, parked near a private residential building Calder recognized from Marcus Delaney's social media. Calder stayed 2 blocks back, sitting in his car with the engine off. She didn't hesitate. She walked in like she belonged there. Marcus met her in the lobby. They kissed. Not hurried, not guilty, familiar. Calder felt something inside him go numb, not break, go quiet, like a switch flipped to preserve what was left. He didn't take photos. He didn't need them. The image burned itself into him, permanent and sharp. That night, Emily came home late again. She slipped into bed beside him, her skin still warm from someone else's attention. Calder lay still, eyes open, listening. He realized then that confrontation wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And when he finally spoke, when he finally laid everything out, it wouldn't be from desperation or rage. It would be from certainty. Because whatever Emily thought she was hiding, Calder now saw clearly. She hadn't just cheated. She had chosen a life without him, and left him to discover it piece by piece. Calder chose the night carefully. It was a Thursday, one of her usual nights. Emily had said she'd be working late, voice smooth, casual, confident. He'd kissed her goodbye, wished her luck, and watched her drive away like nothing inside him had changed. But everything had. The folder on his laptop was neatly organized. Dates, screenshots, call logs, receipts. A timeline so clear, it bordered on clinical. Calder hadn't planned it that way at first, but control had come naturally once he stopped hoping. He cooked dinner for one and ate in silence. At 9:11 p.m., his phone buzzed. Still at the office. Don't wait up. Calder looked at the message, then at the clock. He stood, put on his jacket, and grabbed his keys. Marcus Delaney's building glowed like a monument to excess. Valet parking, security desk, soft music drifting through glass doors. Calder parked across the street, in the shadow of a closed cafe, and waited. At 9:42 p.m., Emily arrived. She stepped out of her car wearing heels she never wore to work. Her posture changed the moment she locked the door. Lighter, looser. Calder watched her enter the building without once looking around. At 11:18 p.m., the lights in Marcus's apartment flicked on. That was enough. Calder drove home slowly, methodically, as if speed might cause him to lose his resolve. He didn't feel anger the way movies portrayed it. Explosive, reckless. What he felt was a sharpening, a narrowing. Everything unnecessary fell away. Emily came home just after midnight. She stopped short when she saw him sitting at the dining table again, laptop closed in front of him. "You're still up," she said, repeating the same words from weeks ago. "Yes," Calder replied. "We need to talk." Something in his tone must have reached her. Emily didn't smile this time. She set her purse down carefully, like any sudden movement might break something fragile. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Calder gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." She hesitated, then obeyed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The house felt suspended, like it was holding its breath. Calder opened the laptop and turned it toward her. The first image was the party photo, the one that had started everything. Then another, and another. Receipts, call logs, a timeline stretching back months. Emily's face drained of color. "Calder," she began. "Don't," he said quietly. She closed her mouth. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He narrated. "You told me you were home," he said. "You weren't. You told me you were working late. You weren't. You told me nothing because you assumed I wouldn't look." Emily's hands trembled slightly as she folded them in her lap. "How long?" Calder asked. She swallowed. "It's not." "How long?" Her eyes dropped. 6 months. The number hit him harder than he expected. 6 months of lies. 6 months of parallel dinners, parallel conversations, parallel intimacy. "Do you love him?" Calder asked. Emily looked up, startled. Her silence was answer enough. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she said quickly. "I was lonely. You were always distant. We stopped talking." Calder raised a hand. Not in anger, in finality. "You don't get to rewrite this," he said. "You didn't trip into his apartment by accident." Tears welled in her eyes, but he noticed something important. She wasn't crying for him. She was crying for the collapse of her structure. "I was going to tell you," she whispered. Calder nodded slowly. "No, you weren't." That landed. She exhaled shakily. "What do you want?" The question revealed everything. Not "what can I do?" Not "can we fix this?" But "what do you want?" Calder closed the laptop. "I want you to be honest," he said. For once. Emily stared at the table. "Marcus knows about you," she admitted. "He knows I'm married." Calder almost laughed. Instead, he felt something settle. "And that didn't stop either of you." "No." Silence filled the room again. "I'm filing for divorce," Calder said. Tomorrow. Emily looked up sharply. Wait, Calder, we can talk about this. Therapy. Time apart. You already took time apart, he replied. You just didn't tell me. Her shoulders slumped. There's something else, Calder continued. Before we separate, you're going to tell Marcus the truth. She frowned. He already knows. You're going to tell him that I know, Calder said. And you're going to do it while I'm here. Her eyes widened. Why? Because I want to watch you choose, he said calmly. The way you already did, just without hiding. Emily shook her head. That's cruel. Calder leaned back in his chair. Cruel was letting me believe I had a wife. Her phone buzzed on the table between them, as if summoned. Marcus. Emily stared at it, then at Calder. Answer it, Calder said. Her hands trembled as she picked up the phone. Put it on speaker, she hesitated. Speaker. Emily pressed the button. Hey, Marcus's voice filled the room, relaxed, intimate. You home safe? Emily closed her eyes. Calder knows. Silence. What? Marcus said. He knows everything, she continued, voice breaking. The photos. The apartment. All of it. Another pause. Longer this time. Emily, Marcus said carefully. We talked about discretion. Calder smiled faintly. I'm divorcing her, Calder said into the phone. You can have what's left. The line went dead. Emily stared at the phone like it had betrayed her. That night, she slept in the guest room. Calder stayed in the master bedroom, alone but strangely steady. The truth was finally out in the open, stripped of romance and secrecy. And in its place was something colder, but honest. There was still one part left. Not confrontation, consequences. The next morning, Calder woke early. The sunlight cut through the blinds in clean lines across the hardwood floor. The house was quiet, as it had been for years. But this silence was different. It felt like a waiting room, not home. He didn't rush. He didn't pace. He moved through the house methodically, opening drawers, checking doors, straightening small things Emily had left out in her usual absent-minded way. It was like reclaiming territory he had once shared, but now had to possess alone. Every object, every corner, whispered of the life that had ended. By 9 o'clock, Emily was up and sitting at the kitchen table. She hadn't packed yet, but she was moving slowly, mechanically, like a woman who had realized she'd lost more than just a marriage. Calder joined her, coffee in hand, and set his mug down carefully. He didn't speak. He waited. Finally, she broke the silence. Did you mean what you said last night? About telling Marcus? Calder nodded slowly. Yes. You made your choice. Now you have to own it. Emily picked up her phone, hesitating. Calder watched her every movement, feeling no malice, only a cold, detached clarity. He wanted her to see the consequences of her actions, without him adding extra punishment. Let reality speak for itself. Marcus answered almost immediately. Emily, everything okay? His voice carried that same overconfident ease Calder remembered. Emily swallowed, voice trembling. No. Calder knows. He knows everything. The line went quiet for a few seconds. Then Marcus's tone shifted. Careful now, unaccustomed to being challenged. What are you going to do? Calder's voice broke in from across the room. You're done. She's mine no longer. Make peace with it. There was a pause, then a click. The call ended. Emily looked down at the table. Calder didn't need to speak. The weight of her own choices was pressing down on her now. The life she had tried to compartmentalize had collapsed, and there was no Marcus to rescue her from it. No hiding behind lies. Over the next week, Calder moved deliberately. He called a divorce lawyer. He arranged his finances. He changed passwords and reclaimed accounts. He kept the house, not out of sentiment, but as a statement. Life goes on, and he would go on too. Emily packed her things quietly. She didn't fight. She didn't cry. Not in front of him. There was only the occasional glance, the faint edge of guilt that Calder didn't bother to soften. When the day came for her to leave, Calder drove her to the airport. He said very little. A nod, a few neutral words, and a calm acknowledgement that their life together was truly over. She didn't look back. Calder returned to the empty house and sat in the living room, letting the quiet settle over him. For the first time in months, he felt a deep, steady breath reach the corners of his chest. He wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Betrayal had been sharp and burning, but clarity, real clarity, was colder, steadier, almost peaceful. A week later, Calder found himself walking through a bookstore downtown. The streets were alive, people moving in ways that reminded him life existed outside the pain he had endured. He paused in the philosophy section, letting his hands trail along the spines of books he hadn't touched in years. It was in that moment he realized something profound. He didn't need revenge. Not really. The exposure of Emily's lies had been enough. Marcus was out of the picture. Emily was gone. And Calder's life, his real life, was still his to build. Yet he allowed himself a small, deliberate act of quiet satisfaction. He called the mutual friends who had facilitated Emily's social circles and casually mentioned, in a calm, even tone, that he now knew the truth about her and Marcus. Not accusatory, not dramatic, just a fact. Within days, Emily's reputation in that circle quietly eroded. People started asking questions, distancing themselves. Marcus never called again. It was subtle, it was small. It was entirely Calder's. Months passed. Calder moved forward methodically, focusing on work, friendships, and the parts of life Emily had never touched. He traveled alone, went to concerts he wanted to attend, reconnected with people he had neglected. He didn't seek new romance. He didn't rush. The healing wasn't loud, but it was real. And every time he thought of Emily, he remembered the look she had given him the first night he confronted her. Not fear, not guilt, but surprise. Surprise that he had seen through her, that he had waited, that he had endured, and that he had walked away on his own terms. He didn't hate her anymore. That would have required energy he didn't want to waste. He only felt ownership over his life again. By the end of the year, Calder had a routine. Mornings with coffee and newspapers, evenings with quiet music and a journal. He occasionally scrolled social media, but never allowed it to touch him. He had built boundaries stronger than any betrayal could breach. And in the stillness of his house, Calder realized something that surprised him. He was free. Free from lies, free from manipulation, free from pretending. The betrayal had been sharp, brutal, and life-altering. But it had also revealed a truth Calder had forgotten. He was stronger than he had known, and no one could take that away. The chapter of Emily was closed. No anger, no bitterness, only a quiet, measured sense of self. And for the first time in a long time, Calder allowed himself to believe in a life rebuilt, not defined by the past, but entirely his own. He picked up a pen, opened his journal, and wrote, "I survived what I didn't deserve, and now I begin again." Outside, the city moved on, indifferent to the personal storms it contained. But Calder, sitting in the sunlit living room of his quiet home, finally felt something that had been absent for months: peace.